Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. This video is something I have never done before. I'm actually not making something in this. Well, I kind of am, but I'm kind of not. But I'm gonna show you how I patterned out my newest cosplay project, this dress. Now, this design is from a game called Love in Deep Space. It is a dating slash fighting game on mobile, and I have recently become obsessed with it. And if you didn't know, I previously made another costume from it. I made the basic hunter outfit is what it's called. So this outfit recently came out and I really wanted to make it. And so I decided I'm gonna make it. And I don't usually show my process of how I get the patterns for the things I make. And this was definitely a challenge for me. So I decided to make a video and share in case some poor soul also wants to make it and they don't know how to get a shape down, or you just want to know how to pattern stuff. That's it. So we should get started. I'm gonna break this video down into sections. First, we're going to talk about the breakdown of the costume. What does she have on? The second part is going to be my fabric choices. What I chose for fabric, how much I got, and the color choices and all of that, and where I got it, of course. The third part is going to be the skirt pattern pieces. Those were my biggest challenge, but we'll talk about that later. And 4, we're going to talk about the bodice or the corset, whichever, which was not as much of a challenge because I make corsets a lot. Let's get down to the first part, the breakdown of the costume. If you see me looking to the side, I have all my references over here. So we're gonna go from top to bottom, even though I started bottom from top because again, those skirts were a nightmare to figure out, but I got it down. So from the top of the bodice, not the whole person, she has kind of a normal shape bodice, nothing too fancy there. The difference here is she has a lot of applique-y stuff on her bodice, which is terrifying. The most practice I have with appliques on a bodice is when I made Emily from Corpse Bride, and that could be messed up because she was a rotting corpse, or she kind of already was a corpse. So that was easy. This needs to look pretty like a mermaid. Oh, I didn't say that, but it's mermaid inspired because that's what the outfit was based on. So what I'm talking about, oh my gosh, I changed the photo again. She has these scallop pieces on and this whole applique piece that goes around in a lighter pink color. She has a Bertha, which again, I don't have much practice. I only have done one Bertha and that was with Belle, and I was not entirely happy with that. So that's great. The one thing that was important for me to note on this bodice, besides literally everything else, is the closure, because she has no signs of lacing. And I want you to know the company the company that does these costumes and stuff, they're very particular about their fashion choices. It's not slapped together like some other games and such. They're actually very particular, and they also have a fashion game. It's all about fashion. So it's very intentional when they do something. So I was going to be very, very detail oriented. And if you don't know, if you haven't seen my videos before, when I recreate something, I tend to go very hard in the recreation part. In the comic, I know it's just a drawing and not everything should be taken literally, but I want to. I kind of want to be literal. I wanted the dress to be exactly like the movie. I wanted the swooshy skirt. I wanted the tight fitted bodice. I wanted the floppy ribbon. So I want to be as accurate as possible. That's going to be a main phrase while I'm making this. But the closure, sorry, I'm getting off of topic. The closure, it looks like she has a side closure. I've never done one of those before. At first I was going to do a lapped zipper because I did that with Spinstress and it was okay. I could do better now probably, but I was like, it's a side and it's fully exposed and you'll be able to see the zipper. I don't want that, and you'll be able to see the flap, and there's beading on the corset. I'm gonna do beading. That's gonna be my first time. I wanted it to be as invisible as possible. Then I discovered hook and eye closure. OMG. People usually have this stuff in the back of the corset. One person that comes to mind is Bella May. She makes a lot of stuff top tier. The one I'm most noting is her Cinderella recreation. She did a hook and eye closure for her Cinderella corset, and it's very flush. And if I can make it flush like that and then just bead right on the edge of it so you don't see the closure, I will live. We'll see if I can do that. But for now, that's the plan. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. You make it separate first and then top stitch it on and you got yourself a bodice. It's just the closure that is scaring me. On to the skirts. The skirts were a whole nother beast. I'm going to tell you now, I have never heard of a flounce before this project. I have, but I never really looked into it. I did not know that's how you get these shapes. If you look at the picture right now, there are so many flounce whatevers in this photo right now. I was scared because I know in sewing there is so many ways to manipulate your fabric to get it the way you want. But me, I didn't know. I was looking up mermaid tail, mermaid swishy fabric, but that's the back. The front, she just has two high-low skirts. I've also never made a high-low skirt. The closest I've gotten was making Tiana's blue dress, but that dress, I messed up. But that was just a train, not really a high-low. This one is a mega high-low, and I had to figure out how to pattern it out because in the back of the skirt, the back of the skirt is the problem. The back of the skirt comes to a point because it's open in the back and then comes down from the front and goes down to a point. I had to figure out how to make that work. I did it. On the side of the skirt, she has two little mermaid flaps. That's what I'm calling them, which were pretty self-explanatory, I guess. You just make a shape and pleat. Speaking of pleating, her skirt, I investigated this costume. Her skirt has no pleating, none. It's flush against, I'm guessing, the petticoat or hoop skirt. I'm gonna make a hoop skirt, but it's flush. There's no pleating in any part of the waistband. So I was wondering how to get those pleats that you see on the front of the skirt, but I figured it out. My thought process is all over. But yes, on the hip, she has two flappy things that are just pleated into shape, which are pretty easy. The back of the skirt. The longest part you see are these mermaid tails. That's what I'm calling them. These mermaid flounces. Like I said earlier, I am very, very picky and particular when it comes to recreating something. For these mermaid tails, it looks like she has 1, 2, 3 overlaps, and that's it. Every practice flounce I made, it had multiple, like 4, 5. I didn't want that. I wanted 3, like it shows, and I got that. Of course I did. Hello. But again, it took a lot of practice, a lot of test fabric, but we'll get to the shape later. And it comes to a point like the back of the skirt, except it's 2 separate pieces. You can see up top near the waist, they're not together. Whew. Are you still with me? We're just getting started. Another piece that she has are these fins in the back. I still haven't patterned those out. I plan to just do that when the time comes because I think I'm just going to stiffen it with Mod Podge or something so it sticks up like it is, and I'm not gonna pattern this out yet. Just so it looks more organic when I'm working on it. I don't know how to explain my thought process with that, but I'm not gonna pattern it out. Second to last piece is this classic flounce that was easier to figure out the pattern for because it's one of those spiral flounces. It's just more open, which I was a little scared of, but I kind of figured it out. And the last thing are the sleeves. I'm calling them sleeves. They're not really sleeves. They're just arm flounces. I had to figure those out because it's more open on the bottom of the sleeve, and on the top it has more of the overlap. But again, we'll go over the pattern later. And that's pretty much it. She does have leggings on, and the shoes, we'll see how I do that. But that's the costume. Now let's get on to my fabric choices. I was talking to a camera that wasn't even on. As I was saying, I have my little slip here of what I got. All of my fabric is from Fabric Wholesale Direct. If I haven't thrifted my fabric, or if I didn't already have it, then most likely I got it from Fabric Wholesale Direct. I like their fabric. I like their color choices. They ship very fast, so I mostly go with them. Actually, that's kind of all I've gone with in the past few years. I don't trust Etsy anymore, and I'm scared to try a new website. But anyways, that's where I get my fabric, if you wanted to know. And I will tell you all the names of the colors I got and how much I got. I'll start with the skirts. The skirts are these two-toned pinks. They don't really have anything on Fabric Wholesale Direct. So what I got is 3 yards of shrimp in crepeback satin and 4 yards of dusty rose in crepeback satin. And the reason I got crepeback satin is because I wanted the drape to look like hers, and I realized while patterning out the skirts, the heavier the fabric, the better the pleats organically make themselves, because again, she has no pleating on top of the skirt. It's just organic pleats. That's the conclusion I came up with. The shrimp is not the exact color because she has an ombre effect. It's more the color of the top of the skirt. The bottom of the skirt, I have to come up with a plan. Either using RIT color remover and hoping it kind of removes some of that pink, because I don't need it white. I just need it a lesser pink. And for the bottom skirt, the dusty rose and crepeback satin, unfortunately, the color does not match the website. It's darker in person. It doesn't match at all of what I'm trying to do. It's too dark. Very unfortunate. And I know there's gonna be people in the comments, you could have ordered a sample. I could have, but I don't want to pay 99 cents and then pay the shipping costs on top of that for a 99-cent sample. I just don't like that. I'm happy to pay the 99 cents, but with shipping, no, I'm not doing that. I'll take a chance. Is it a bad idea? Yeah. Is it irresponsible? Yeah. Will I continue to do it? Yeah. But if you want to be more responsible, you can order samples. I will not. That's also why I like using Fabric Wholesale Direct, because they have picture reviews. This is not sponsored. I just like them. But Fabric Wholesale Direct, if you want to sponsor me, I'm right here. But anyways, they have picture reviews, they have reviews. I like that. I will not order from somewhere if they do not have reviews, especially picture reviews, because I need to see if that product looks like it if I'm spending money. Tangent over. I apologize. Thankfully for the bottom skirt, because the dusty rose did not match, I did look in my stash and I have about maybe a little less than 3 yards of their light pink crepeback satin. And if I overlay that with some of the organza I got, it works. It works. And I have enough for the skirt. It works for the bottom skirt, and that's all I can ask for. For everything else, it's gonna be sheer organza fabric, because everything else looks sheer for the most part. It's just gonna be a bunch of organza layered on top of each other. So I'm just gonna list off what organza I got. So the first organza I got is 5 yards of blush organza. Next, I got 4 yards of dusty rose organza. This is all their crystal organza. Surprisingly, the crystal organza is the right color in dusty rose. And so if I overlay that with the light pink crepeback satin, it comes up the right color, because I really didn't want to buy so much fabric. Also, disclaimer, I should have said this in the beginning. I bought all this fabric before I looked at the costume in detail. Was that a mistake? Absolutely. I don't recommend. I don't know why I did that. I was just really excited about making the costume. But if you're excited, you should wait to buy the fabric so it's more accurate. I wasn't thinking. But thankfully, most of the fabric works, just the crepeback satin and dusty rose didn't. That's pretty good. Next thing I got is 3 yards of lavender. I got 3 yards of pink organza. Again, the pink is a little darker in person, but it's not crazy. Unfortunately, I was gonna use it for the sleeve flounces and the back tail. I don't have enough, so I have to get more. Before you buy fabric, pattern out your stuff first. I don't know why I did it this way. I don't know why, but I need to get more. Other than that, realistically, I will have 7 yards of the pink organza because I need 4 more yards to fit the back tail piece. I got 3 yards of iridescent pearl organza and 4 yards of iridescent pearl organza in white. Again, layering. And for the bodice, you can see her bodice has sort of an iridescent sheen on those scallop pieces, and I'm going to be using their champagne in crepeback satin. I have some remnants that I got for Belle, but I think I'm gonna have to get another yard, just 1 yard, because I don't have enough for the bodice. But that with the iridescent white, it looks exactly like it, and I'm so excited. And that's all I got. I will probably use other stuff, but you'll have to check out me making the actual garment for all the other stuff. So now that we have broken down the costume and we have broken down the fabric pieces, it's time to get to the patterning. Did you guys notice I got spiffy for this video? I'm breaking down my process to the skirt patterning. The first thing I started patterning is the high-low skirt. I've never made one before, so I just started with a normal circle skirt and thought I could just cut it down, but that didn't work. It was way too high on her hip area, and where her hip area is where it starts to cascade down. So I had to make another mock-up that I made too short because my mock-up fabric was not wide enough, which is also another reason why I like Fabric Wholesale Direct. Again, not sponsored, but I just love them. Their fabric is very wide, and so it can help you get less yardage because their fabric is so wide you can fit multiple pieces in that 1 yard. But okay, back to the patterning. So for the final shape of the high-low skirts, I made this shape. The reason being it's so weird, it looks like a shark fin, is because, again, like I said before, it comes to a point and then it goes back up and then goes into the other side of the skirt. And so I needed that point where it goes down and not where it attaches to the other side. Is that making sense? Sort of. And I use this, I think it's knit fabric, something like that, and it has a weight to it, so I could see exactly how the crepe back will fall, and it did its job, and so I knew what shape I needed. Next, I patterned out the mermaid tails. That was a lot of work because, again, I wanted 3 like it shows in the reference photo, and so I had to keep playing around with the pleating on top and the shapes because I was trying to do it like the skirt, but that wasn't working out, and I realized it's a different shape from the skirt. As the skirt comes to a point earlier, this one comes to a point later. It's as wide as the skirt, but it comes to a point at the edge of the fabric instead of in the middle of the fabric, if that is making sense to you. For the mermaid tail, I needed to pleat the top of that flounce to make it look like 3, and I did do that. And when I make the final product, I'm just gonna have to play around with it because that's what this project is, playing around with stuff. And it's such an unfortunate project to do that with because it's so much organza, and if you have never made anything with organza, I envy you. This is the most I have done with organza. I'm scared. The shape of the mermaid tail is a little different from the skirt. Similar, but different. Trust. The way it falls, way different. And if you see in my little footage I'm popping up on the screen, you'll see I'm doing all of my patterning first with fabric. I usually never do that. I usually never make mock-ups, but this one is kind of important to do a mock-up with. I usually never do mock-ups. And with skirts, I usually don't have to because I mostly make circle skirts and they're easy for me. There's calculators, and if you want to make a panel skirt, you just cut up what the calculator said and make that amount of panels. That's easy. This is a whole different thing. And so I'm using like fabrics that I'm going to use in the finished product so I can see how it will fall in the finished product. That's why I'm using fabric first, and then I make my paper patterns with this. Next thing I patterned out was the hip flap, mermaid flap things. Again, not too difficult. I just had to play around with it again. Make a little flounce here, pleat it there, we're good. And then the circle flounce. I had to play around a bit with that because, again, I want it more open like hers is in the back. Never made a flounce like that. Well, I've never made a flounce, period. This is an eye-opening project. Every project I learn something new. This is many new things I'm learning for this. And for the sleeve, I'm counting the sleeve as part of the skirt because it also is a giant flounce. But for the sleeve, it is similar to the mermaid tail, except the short part of the flounce goes a little longer and then it goes down into like a pointed oval. And again, I'll pop up what shape I did. And that's how I got the shape for the sleeve. Again, gotta play around with it, with the pleating and stuff, but I think I found a very good shape. And after all of those were done, I transferred them onto paper like you do. So I have these patterns for the foreseeable future. Okay, we're almost there, guys. We're almost there. On to the bodice patterning. For the bodice, I used a bodice pattern that I have used many a time, but I have also made that pattern years ago, and I was already feeling like it was time to make a new one. But I tried. I made a mock-up of the bodice. Really proud of myself, by the way. I wasn't gonna do that, but gotta do that. We gotta do that. And I made a mock-up of that bodice. I did not like the fit. It was not fitting how I wanted it to, and for some reason one of the sides were super short. I don't know how I got that way, but yeah, I needed to make a new pattern, and I'm going to show you the way I make all my bodice patterns, the duct tape method. If you don't know, the duct tape method is you cover yourself in whatever you need, whether it's an old shirt you don't use and you can cut up, or you cover yourself in saran wrap. This time I used a trash bag because that was so much easier. If you need to pattern yourself with straps, use a trash bag instead of saran wrap. It works so much better. I've suffered a lot. I used a trash bag this time, and you just duct tape yourself. You can duct tape half of yourself to save on tape. When you're done duct taping yourself, you start drawing the pattern that you want on yourself. For this, I didn't want too many seams because it doesn't even look like she has seams. All I saw as a seam is her side closure. So I was confused on that, but I just decided to make it easier on myself. And once you're done drawing on the pattern, cut yourself out of it very carefully, and then you do what you normally do. You copy it on a piece of paper, you add seam allowance, and there is your pattern piece. I did also make a mock-up of this one, and it fit so much better. The only difference with this bodice to a normal bodice is I added 2.5 extra inches to the side panel where I will put the hook and eye closure. And for the bodice scallops, on my mock-up, I drew how I want the scallops to look. I tried my best because in my previous Love in Deep Space costume make, I found out I had a short torso. So mine is not gonna look exactly like the reference photo, much to my annoyance. I think I did a good job. And I patterned it out on the mock-up, and then I put the paper I was using, by the way, it's just wrapping paper, Christmas wrapping paper. You can use that for patterns instead of heavy-duty paper if you want to save on money. I put the paper under the mock-up, and I pressed the Sharpie down hard so it would transfer to the paper. I traced it out, gave it seam allowance, and I had my pattern. That's it. And the last thing to pattern out is her bertha. I didn't know how I was gonna do that because she has twists and turns and pleats and sagging and all that stuff. As I did it, you can see it right here. It's just going to be a wide rectangle, a very wide rectangle where it gets pleated in the middle, dragged across the bit where it's connected to the bodice. The sleeve portion will just sag down like normal, and then in the back it also gets a little pleat because there's beads there, and it looks like it's either pleated or lightly gathered. And that's how I patterned this costume. This was one take. One take. I'm out of breath. My mouth is dry. But if you're stuck with me, thank you. I hope this helped people a little bit. This is kind of my process. I just go into it. Most of the time, I don't even do a mock-up, but there's nothing too scary about making your own patterns. Also, I am a cheapskate. I don't like buying patterns because you also have to alter them to fit you just how you want. Especially me, because my proportions are so different to a commercial pattern that I would have to alter them. I don't want to do that, so I just make my own. I hope this helps someone, whether you're making this costume or making another costume that has a shape that you don't know how to make. You just go for it. So that's the end of the video. Thank you for whoever stayed this long. It was a lot of talking, very different from how I usually make videos, and I hope you stick around to see me actually make the costume. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.